2. We are live. At least I clicked the button. All right. Hey, everybody.
Woo!
Do we do the fun dance move? I think this is like my go-to, but I think I need to like do my repertoire a little bit different. But good morning, everybody. This is jam session number 52, which means we have run on average one of these a week for the last 52 weeks, which is actually pretty cool and pretty exciting, I think. So thank God it's the last day of school. My wife did a fun little post on Facebook. I don't know if she put it up. She at least took the picture where it said, like, I'm in my 2 older ones are in 3rd grade and 6th grade, going into 4th and 7th. She says, I has like a chalkboard sign that says, I survived a full year in the pandemic, which I think is super funny. So, but yeah, we have been through a lot. It is very encouraging to see, especially with like Wrigley opening up, sports arenas. I've been watching basketball playoffs and I'm like, yeah, this is good. You know, people's comfort levels of where they're at, obviously with people being vaccinated, it's been great. So, this session is going to be catered to, you know, we have some great talking points, but also to what to expect in the next few months with activity still being decently at a high, but the consensus that we've been gathering is that, you know, it is tapering off. So just how to handle that and how to communicate that effectively to clients. So without further ado, I am going to have the realtors briefly introduce themselves real fast and the partners introduce themselves real fast, because let's face it, people who are listening to this, they don't want to hear me blab and drone on. So with that being said, Diana, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and kick us off with the rest of the realtors.
Absolutely. Hi, guys. I'm Diana Grinnell. I work for At Properties. I've been in the business almost 5 years now, sold advertising years before and haven't looked back since.
Hey guys, I'm Meg Daday. I'm with Keller Williams, in Chicago. I've been in real estate since 2015, practiced law prior to that, and like Diana, have not looked back since.
Hi everyone, I'm Abby Powell. I work for Dreamtown Realty and I have been in the business for 4.5 years. I've done a little bit of everything. I worked in the hospitality industry and had a small dog walking business. Still indulge in petting dogs and going out to bars and restaurants, but full-time real estate agent, and I love it.
Hi, my name is Neil Hackler with Engel and Volkers. I've been selling now for 15 years, and I work out of our Lincoln Park office.
I'm Eli Masud with Compass. Been selling real estate for about 7 years, went full-time 3 years ago and left my corporate job, thankfully, back then.
It's always a good feeling. No, thanks for that. Just want to get, you know, the vibe and the consensus of everybody on here. And as realtors are rock stars at what, you know, at what they do, otherwise they wouldn't be on this. I want to give the partners a little bit of love because we cannot do what we do without them. I technically am kind of unemployed without them. I mean, you know, we put the puzzle, it's like a realtor, you know, they put the puzzle together every month to make the deal work, and that adds value to the industry. So I have a high respect of what, you know, realtors do throughout the course of their day and their week, and just, you know, their life, juggling family life with real estate. However, though, I do know that they lean on businesses to make their, and that, you know, they essentially save themselves time, save their clients time. And so I cannot do what I do without our partners. And so one thing I will go, and you guys didn't know I was going to do this. Well, maybe you did if you've watched previous ones of these. This is our app, which, let's see here, you know, Angie, Justin, and Seth, you guys are the, I guess, I don't want to call you guys sponsors, but, you know, the ones supporting this, essentially this jam session. And so people ask me all the time, hey, do you guys have a digital version? I say, yes, but it's not online. It's a private publication. The hard copy only goes to the top 500 agents based on production. So if you receive the physical, tangible hard copy, congratulations. It's like a badge of honor. However, we do have an app that everybody has access to. It's called Digipub. You can download it, Google Play, App Store. But the cool thing with this is it's kind of like a timeline of Real Producers, because you can download or look through all the past issues that we have done. And so it has our partner list on there, has like past event videos and everything. There's access to a lot of stuff. So they probably will start charging for this eventually. So I've been encouraging people, if you don't have this on your phone or tablet yet, even if you never look at it, get it on there, because then you'll be grandfathered in if they do start charging for it eventually. So it's called Digipub. Download Chicago. We actually have a DuPage and a North Shore market as well. So while you're on there, you might as well throw those two on there. But other than that, I want to give the partners a chance to introduce themselves briefly, and then we're going to start rocking out. So let's see here. Angie, fire away.
Hey guys, Angie Wozniak. I am with Midwest Lending in Westtown. I've been there for about 5.5 years. Before that, I was a failed real estate agent for a couple of years, could not hack it. So props to you guys for doing what you do.
Seth or Justin, you can flip a coin. I totally forgot who was next.
Hey everybody, Seth Williams here. I'm the owner of Interior Drama Home Staging. We've been serving Chicago for about 20 years. And before this, I also left my corporate job as an investment banker.
You're Seth. We've talked on the phone before.
Yeah, man.
Hey everyone, Justin Strane from Shapiro Strane. I'm a residential and commercial transactions attorney here in the city. Been doing this about 10 years now. I think I'm in year 11.
Awesome. Well, now that we've gotten to know everybody, I mean, when we were sort of pre-gaming, let's just dive into the meat and potatoes here. If you're a vegetarian, I'm sorry for making that comment, but you know what I mean. Neil, you had a great point to sort of kick us off. So why don't you go ahead and take it away, and we can ebb and flow from that.
Yeah, no, I think one of the hot topics, and I've been talking with a lot of other brokers about this, is just like the market slowing down a little bit, because I think it's been very hot throughout the city, you know, like for most of the year. And then lately I feel like it's slowed down, and I keep having more of those conversations, and just curious to see like how that's going for everybody else.
I think everybody's certainly feeling it. You know, I'm trying to remind clients that in 2019, I looked back at the data, the contracts cut in half from May to June after Memorial Day. You know, this is really seasonality. I think, and unfortunately COVID and what has been the last year has kind of jaded everyone a little bit. And now as we're getting out of it and the world is opening up, people are traveling, they're doing other things. They're not necessarily here looking at homes, but I'm confident that it's still people need homes. They're just, again, it's just a little bit slower, but I think it's just keeping everyone's expectations in line, that this isn't, we're not dying. It's just like that, what we've experienced was not typical and was not normal. And we're just sort of balancing out, and we just have to be a little bit more patient. But it's hard, it's certainly hard for sellers that their neighbors sold in one day with multiple offers, and why aren't they? But I always say half my job is therapy. And so it's really just talking to everyone and calming them down and being as realistic and taking the emotion out of it as possible.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's the biggest challenge right now, is they've been hearing about multiple offers for the last 6 months or even a year, and now things are sitting on the market a little bit longer. And so I'm really trying to show them the data of, okay, 10 new listings came on similar to yours last week, but only one went under contract. So it's not just you.
Not just you.
But it's still really tough for them because they thought it would sell quickly. So they've, already bought elsewhere. So I think just really trying to communicate to clients like the reality of the market rather than the headlines.
Yeah, I would agree, Meg. And I think I try to use info sparks as well. So it gets really specific down to their product type. So number of beds, BAS, location, new products coming, products under contract, et cetera. But also that the majority of places, majority of my business is actually first-time home buyers, but those people are typically have leases ending March, April, May, June, July, which means they already purchased more than likely, while there still are some people that have leases expiring in August, September. There's just a lot less.
I agree. The slowdown is definitely here. I think with everyone pushing off events and travel from last year, they're taking advantage of it now. And I agree with everyone else that commented on just showing your clients the data and showing them that it's not your product, it's the market. And 8 weeks ago, 12 weeks ago, when we met, when we decided on price, there were maybe 4 homes on the market, and now all of a sudden there's 8. And we came on at a list price that was very realistic, and so did everyone else. They're not selling, we're not selling, we need to make an adjustment. It's not us, it's the market. And instead of just telling them that, it's showing them that, hey, let's keep an eye on some of the other properties on the market. They go under contract before us. We need to make an adjustment, but if they're still in the market in another week, it's definitely the market which is dictating what's going on. And very interesting, I listed a super cute condo, a lot of interest the first couple of weeks, and this past weekend we got 2 offers, almost 4. Some people decided not to make an offer. So it seems like different areas are heating back up or cooling down still. So it'll be interesting to see what happens after the 4th of July, after everyone's done traveling for that portion of the holiday.
Is it not only a function? Is it not only a function of demand, but I know that supply on the market was down like 50% kind of across the country. Are you guys seeing more listings, or did that come up?
Definitely more inventory hit the market after Memorial Day, which, was predicted. And as people start to then find somewhere to buy, then they're listing their place. A lot of sellers wanted to move, but they didn't know where they were going to go. So as they start to find places, then they're going to list their places, and the market's just going to start to even out a little bit. And with the city, it sounds like most of us work more in the city. The suburbs are still kind of crazy, from what I hear. And as they start to buy more there, then they're going to be listing their city places. So it's just sort of supply and demand right now.
I think something that also comes into play when we tell our sellers this is, at least for me, it's a lot of fear that's always involved sometimes with sellers of, okay, that's great. What are you going to be doing for me that's a lot different? Not necessarily different, but I think because with buyers, you're taking them out on tours, you're communicating with them about property. Sellers don't really see, hear, and feel and touch what you're doing. So I tend to typically create a list at the beginning before we even list about all the things we're going to do. So I'll list like 10 different things. And then as the process continues, I'll make sure that they understand that we're checking all these boxes and trying to leave every stone unturned that's within our control. So everything from, did we virtually stage? Did we stage in person? Did we do a 3D tour? Did we send out postcards? Did we reverse prospect? Did we, and the list goes on for whatever it is that you do. And I make sure that they're clear that we're doing, 10 of these things. And from here, it's, it is the market. It's not necessarily us.
And I feel like I've gone back to like reaching out to the other brokers like who have listings in the building, and I'm trying to get feedback that I'm constantly sharing with my clients again. And on top of that, I'm trying to talk to them about like, let's all do open houses at the same time to see if we can pull traffic together. I feel like, we haven't had to do that in a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, one of the other things I was just going to point out too is that I don't know if you guys are hearing this from your buyers, but I've had multiple buyers now that are like, you know what, now I've been vaccinated, we haven't traveled in a year. So we're just, a lot of people are like taking the next 2-3 weeks off traveling in July because they can still work remotely, and they're taking, teaming up with a vacation. Are you guys hearing more of that?
Yeah, a lot of weddings that were postponed. I know a lot of my clients have been out of town or traveling for family events or weddings. So a lot of them have like month-to-month leases. So they're like, you know what, we're not really in a hurry, haven't found anything that we're in love with or haven't yet found one. So they're like, we're going to revisit this in 6 weeks. We'll keep an eye out. If there's anything we love, we'll give you a call.
Mm-hmm.
Like there were so many first-time buyers with like a lower like down payment who just weren't as competitive, that got so defeated from offering and losing and offering and losing. And now they're like, you know what? Fine, we'll wait until next season, and renewed their leases. So I also feel like there might be a little bit of an uptick like next year once all of that kind of settles, because it was so crazy. We didn't have like a winter slowdown. It was like go, 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 go. And I feel like everyone who was overwhelmed by that initially and got defeated is gonna, like, this is a good time to like follow up and let them know, like, hey, here's where we're at now. Like, maybe let's get our feet wet again and reevaluate, because it was a market nobody's ever seen before. And that's our job as a professionals, is to set expectations and, you know, manage them.
Well, buyers have always been scared of multiple offers, you know, well, I say some it's like they want what they can't have, but most are scared by it. And so I think as it starts to slow, it's our job to kind of remind them that now is a better time, and that the market is shifting, and you don't necessarily maybe need to wait till next year, but now. I know we touched on like the rental market. I think the rental market really sort of got turned upside down as well with COVID, that people were able to either renew their leases or go month to month. So like our rental cycle is a little off, which is making it harder for us to be able to say when those renters are going to be up for buying. So it's, you know, it's just a little tricky right now. And I think, you know, my managing broker said recently, you need to be confident in saying you just don't know, because we've never sold in a global pandemic before, and we just don't have data to go on. And we always want to be the experts, but we can show them as much data as possible, but just we've never, you know, had a global pandemic where there's now a vaccine and the world is opening up again. So we're all just sort of in it together and have to ride the highs and the lows and come out somewhere in between right now.
Right. And did I don't know if this happened for you guys, but I noticed, like, I had multiple contracts or multiple listings that sat through the fall that started going under contract between Christmas and New Year's. And that's kind of when my spring market kicked off. And I remember probably it was like 4 or 5 years ago, all of a sudden I had the busiest December I've ever had. And so I feel like with the buyers that are going to be left over from this year, plus the new buyer pool, I feel like it's going to kick off in December again, because that spring market, it's not really starting in March. It's really starting January or into December, I think. Are you guys seeing that as well? And
I did not have a slowdown. I stayed busy from August until now. And I think finally the slowdown has hit because of the vaccine, limited inventory, and some buyers just saying, you know, I'll call you when I get back from Mexico or wherever. But it's super interesting too. And I've been encouraging some of my buyers where we haven't had the best of luck, and they're coming in qualified or really good flexible closing terms for buyers, because they're first-time home buyers, don't have a home sale contingency, and can give them 30, 60, 90 days. If there's been something sitting on the market for 35, 60 days, I'm saying let's give it an offer and see what we can do. And we've had some success with that, getting a property that has just been overpriced and on the market a little bit longer than anticipated, and they're kind of upgrading what they thought that they could get, and we're kind of hacking the multiple offer situation.
Do you think that one of the things that's driving the demand, I mean, it's obviously the interest rate environment. I guess a question for Angie would be that you think that these people that are out there looking and maybe are now going back to renting are going to regret it because interest rates might be higher and they might not be saving on the, you know, the
that conversation. Yeah, we've had that conversation a lot on, you know, interest rate projections. Like, we were spoiled. We saw the lowest of the lows. There's also been some volatility, like February, March, things went back up, and it was like the quickest, highest increase we'd ever seen in the shortest amount of time. And that's just, you know, if I had a crystal ball and could predict where rates were going to be, I certainly would not be doing mortgages. Like, let's just say that. But things are projected to go up. So yeah, that, you know, under 3% rate And when things are back, you know, if they get back closer to 4, if and when, that's a pretty big chunk of change difference in terms of qualifying. So I'm doing that a lot with a lot of real estate agents I partner with, is just giving their renters kind of the data to let them know, like, you know, this 250 price point that you qualify now is not going to be that depending on rates. So we might have to pivot, you know, price point strategy, program, that kind of thing to make it work. But we're seeing that too, even on the lending side, like a lot of people refied already, slowing down overall. But yeah, people are traveling and the world's open. But there's a big fear of rates and what's going to happen and how things are going to look. And that's what it is. It is certainly going to impact qualifying. So it'll be, I always tell my agents, if you have a pre-approval letter that's over 30 days old, I would call that lender and have that refreshed just to make sure, because things change all the time.
It's something that we do with our lenders to give people a little bit of peace of mind that are renting, that are hesitant about spending a little bit more than they want to spend, is that we'll say, again, we don't have a crystal ball, but I'd like to think that there's no juice left to squeeze and that interest rates can only go up. So if it were to go up, let's say it's going to be about a point, which is not even that much in reality of things.
Historically, no.
At one point over the 1 year, it's spending more money. I try to help the lender communicate how much they're saving by getting a lower interest rate and getting equity into the property by spending more money. At least you're getting more money back towards equity versus all of it being gone with the interest rate being higher. So I don't know if it helps or not, but again, we just try to give them another angle or perspective to look at that they probably wouldn't have quantified, I guess you could say.
Totally.
It can't hurt. Sometimes I just say, throw enough against the wall, something will stick.
Yeah.
So we're using all the tools in our toolbox.
Especially dependent on like the profession. So a lot of the stuff that we do is like based on the profession of the client. So some people that are like accountants or engineers or architects, we get very detailed with numbers. When it's like a sales guy, I'm totally different, right? A marketing person or a salesperson, they're totally emotional about it. Just that place looks awesome. I want it. They don't care.
Sales 101, know your audience.
Yeah.
So.
How's everyone looking at a question that I had was and Andy was probably going to lead in with this, but I had a question specifically and wanted to get your feedback around high rises. So I feel like that was the hardest hit market of all the product types in Chicago. So the headliners were always the market's hot, places, there's no inventory. And I had to remind people time and time again and show them graphs that the inventory for high rises was astronomically high, like 10 to 12 months supply, which is like 4x standard. We've seen a slight uptick in both our rentals and our listings, and a few buyers that are actually interested, but I don't think it's anything back at where it was. I was curious to get all of your feedback on what you're seeing with the high rise market.
Yeah, so what I've been working in quite a few high rises in different neighborhoods around the city this year.
Okay.
One thing that was interesting, I was working in the Gold Coast. I was working a walk-up property, and I had multiple people coming over from the high rises saying, "I'm done with communal living," because through COVID and dealing with what they dealt with some, I think we've all heard the horror stories from high rises and not letting movers in and not letting, all different kinds of things. And so I feel like you have a lot of those people that are kind of done with it and they want to do a little bit more of a walk up. But then the other thing that I'm seeing is that I think first quarter, 2020 versus 2021, the high rise numbers, they were on the market twice as long. And I feel like little bit by little bit, it's continuing to get better, but they're still very slow. Like I have a listing at 555 Cornelia. I've talked to the other brokers there, and we were barely getting any showings. And to me, like I had one go under contract off of Marine Drive, but it was all about pricing.
Okay.
For my clients looking in high rises, there's so much inventory. We're looking at like 35, 50 places because they're not seeing them go under contract. There's no sense of urgency. There's a million different options. And so it's just, this is anecdotal, but like every single one seems to be an in town that someone's not using anymore because of COVID. So I think that's what's driving a lot of the inventory is just travel and, changing to their Florida house rather than their Chicago condo.
I'm wondering if if the city reopening in terms of people going back to work is going to hopefully spark some of the high-rise inventory, because I feel like that's a key contributor to everything opening up and telling the story. So people from the burbs that are empty nesters that come back to the city typically want the high-rise. Yeah, I think that's the only place that still have where there's a deal to be had, but you can't even give them away in some cases. So.
The
I know there was an article in Crain's last week about that, and they were talking about how the downtown market's going to soon explode, because with everyone starting to go back to work probably here over the next 6 months to a year, that they're anticipating more growth downtown.
Okay.
And the high rises are all about amenities, right? So in COVID, when you couldn't use the amenities, what's the point? What am I going to pay $1,000 a month for when I can't use the gym? I can't use the pool. You can't do any of that. So I'm sure that'll be a huge push, is just being able to use them to their full, take full advantage of all that's included.
Yeah. Side note here. Speaking of that, are your gyms getting more populated?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
No more suffocating while you work out with a mask on.
Oh, it was terrible.
Was that going to be judging just to find out if we're all going to the gym?
I can't speak, man. I'm worst shape of my life, I think.
Have you guys seen any, I guess what I'm hearing is there's a bunch of lags in terms of contractors and doing renovations. Have you seen it difficult to just get a hold of the contractors, or, just getting them in to do the work quickly?
I think
I'm doing renovation and it's been brutal. I closed in January. The sellers moved out in March, and I probably won't be in until September. And it's a pretty, 1,000 square foot condo. So all the contractors are crazy busy. The cabinets take 10 weeks to get here. Even just, on my listings, my handyman is running wild, and we're having to tell him where to go next just to kind of hold him accountable.
Yeah, it takes 2 weeks sometimes, or maybe 3, to even get a quote, depending upon what it is what I'm running into.
Yeah, absolutely. So go ahead.
I feel like people are also more comfortable with allowing people in their homes since people are vaccinated. I know last year, people who were prepping to sell, and then COVID hit and they're immunocompromised. They're like, no one's coming in to paint. Everything that we wanted to update or upgrade, we're putting it on hold. And now there's a shortage on everything. So definitely agree with that I think some contractors are super straightforward and transparent. When you call them, they're like, I'm 2 weeks out, which is great, versus, yeah, let me come and give you a quote, and then you don't hear from them for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I think, I'm sure you're experiencing this as well, but I've ordered some furniture, from Crate and Barrel. It was supposed to be here in July, then I'm told August, now I'm told September. So I'm hoping that I have living room furniture even, by the end of the year. And then, so in some of the deals that I'm doing, I asked the buyers, I'm like, if they're going to give away, or if you can buy any of their furniture, you're better off having something instead of waiting 6 months or 8 months to actually get something to sit on.
Absolutely.
Good idea.
I had clients, same thing. Their couch arrival date kept changing while we were under contract, and the sellers were downsizing and said, hey, we'd be happy to leave you this furniture if you're interested in it. I said, just take it.
Yep.
Yeah, the supply chains are super jacked up. Our main vendor, it's literally everything is out of stock. So it's it's just, getting creative. But I think a lot of supply chains are screwed up. I know that lumber is kind of all over the place. It's dropping a little bit, but we'll see how that shakes out.
Seth, if you have furniture to sell, we can send some people your way.
Yeah.
We do. We sell the furniture.
I've used my own furniture to stage.
all the time. My husband's like, our dining room chairs are going away again. I'm like, yes, they are. And they'll come back hopefully sooner than later. Let me just get through attorney review. So nature of the biz.
I'm curious, I know we chatted about this, like attorney review and inspections and appraisals, like what's your experience with it? I was very seller heavy this year, and a lot of my sellers did very well, and we did not run into any appraisal issues, so I'm grateful. A lot of my buyers too, if we went in at list price or a little bit higher, our appraisals were coming in higher than what they paid. But I've heard, you know, a lot of people having the complete opposite. So I'm just curious as to what your experience is. And now we're setting new precedent of comps in the neighborhood and price points. So what's everyone's experience? What are your buyers doing or sellers doing with some of these issues?
I like the appraisal piece was a lot about timing. So at first, when we were getting into these like highest and best and so significantly over ask, the comps weren't there yet to catch up. So then it was like, okay, if we know that there are other things under contract, maybe we like squeeze that timeline out a little bit and wait for those to close so we can use those as comps and then it'll be there. But I had a couple like that, or, you know, if the comps aren't there, it was in some cases, it's just a matter of timing and waiting for that to catch up, because that's what your appraisal is based on. So if you, and I had agents like, great, call that one that's under contract. What are they under contract for? What are they closing? Let's time it, wait, order then. But it really depended. Like I had one in Logan Square, they offered 50 over ask and like it appraised out, no problem. And then I had a high rise and it came in like just a little tick low and they wanted to unload it. So they were like, great, we have a deal, get it done.
I swear, I think like we had a 2-bed, 2-bath in West Loop get under appraised. I've never heard of this before, by $27,000 on like a 480 purchase. And we have the listing. But I could be wrong, and this is completely a guess. I think that also appraisers are completely stretched in. And I think there's a lot of rookie appraisers out there.
There's a lot of
new ones.
I mean, even rush turn times. Like there's just not like capacity and manpower to do it. So we've also seen like, and they're human and they make mistakes too. So I feel like we've also felt a lot more like clerical errors and just not as, because that's what it is. These guys, you know, it's a niche kind of profession. And you can't send like a city guy out to the burbs to like Naperville where it's so contingent on like the school district, just like you can't send a guy from like Orland Park out to like Gold Coast in a high rise. Like they're just not going to know. And that's something I think on like the lending and appraisal piece that we like kind of caught up to, and we started to work the kinks out. But yeah, it was.
Yeah, we've doesn't work every time, but we've asked people to use our lender.
What was that? I'm sorry, you cut out.
I've asked people, like if it's a lender that I haven't really heard of, not that I try to take control of this because it's not my say, but I will in advance have a conversation with the buyer's agent to either use our lender, especially if you've got a little bit more power on the listing. But even if you don't, just have that as a contingency, at least a verbal conversation to say, hey, look, I've been seeing a lot of this going on with appraisals. I don't know who your lender is. I don't remember heard of this company. If this comes up, then we want to make it clear that we would highly encourage your buyer to use our lender as a backup should the appraisal have an issue. And we just had that happen, and now they are using our lenders because we want to make sure the deal goes through.
Well, they do, you know, what's crazy about this market is moving super fast, and a lot of the data they're using is like a lagging economic indicator, but it's like, you know, this is supply and demand right now. So I think that they kind of are forced to appraise some of these properties when it might not make sense to them, but it makes sense to the market.
Yeah, I feel like through this market, I feel like from my end, I guess the appraisers have been doing a pretty good job to adjust. You know, back in, I think it was like 2012, you know, after the 2008 thing happened, all of a sudden, like everything started to jump up, and appraisers got beat down so hard in 2009 and 10 for, you know, all the, you know, the inflation. It wasn't their fault, or over the overpriced properties. But then around 2012, values started to go up, and I had 5 appraisal issues in 1 year. And so, of course, you try to fight all of them. And some of them, a couple of them were silly because they were pulling comps like a mile away in the city. But that is one of the things that too, that I think if you do run into appraisal issues, it's our job to be able to review the appraisal. And if we can provide better comps too, I've done that, and then things have been adjusted. So that is one thing you can try to fight those. And just like someone had mentioned earlier that, okay, maybe you have a new property that closed, can you push that through? That might really help with the value too.
Justin and I had one last week that the appraiser said that the garden unit, was a multi-unit, wasn't legal because of a gas stove, and the gas stove needed to be removed and the gas line capped. So we all like freak out because we're supposed to close the next day. And we had waited over 2 weeks for the appraisal, FYI. And it was an electric stove. There was no gas down there. So everything almost all blew up. And then I looked through the photos and I'm like, that doesn't look like a gas stove. I don't remember that. So it's a little scary. And I had another single family in North Center that appraised for like 80K under. And I had met the appraiser. He did not take one measurement. He did not do square footage at all. And I don't really know why I didn't say something more. I didn't follow him around. It's like, well, maybe he didn't do it, but I don't know if he was just rookie or what happened. So we fought it and we got it adjusted, but a little scary that something so important can easily derail the process so quickly.
Right. Well, I think it's always smart too to take comps with you, because a lot of appraisers will take them. But I ask every appraiser that I meet, like, do you know the area? You know, like, what can I fill you in on anything? Like, is there anything I can help with? And just because, so one time, again, years ago, when I had an appraisal issue, I said, oh, do you know the area? He goes, this is Andersonville, such a great area. I love it. I love it. I love it. And know so much about it. And I was working with the property 4 blocks away from the lake. And then when we finished our conversation, he goes, excuse me, can you tell me which way Lakeshore Drive is? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is gonna be terrible. So yeah, but I always try to ask as many questions and provide as much information as I can to them.
My appraisal issues have all come when it's like a credit union or smaller bank that, probably isn't as familiar with the city. I haven't had really any issues with the larger banks.
Yeah. Does everybody provide like an update or upgrade sheet to appraisers as well?
Yeah.
I used to, just when I knew the market was good and it was kind of a cut and dry 2-bed, 2-bath, or there was a duplex down that, on properties that require it. Yeah. I think you have to now.
Yeah, I've been doing that. I've been doing that lately.
Yeah.
Justin, what are you seeing during attorney review on like inspection items?
Yeah.
Back to like managing client expectations about this at the beginning of the year, when we had that initial rush. I mean, it was totally all seller's market. I mean, the seller could do just about anything, but we've definitely, at least I've seen a switch on the files lately where, and with these high-rise buildings as well, if you have a buyer coming in, your seller, at least in my experience, needs to think a little bit more about those requests. I feel like 2 months ago, we could have played hardball a bit more on the seller side. Now it's like, okay, do you want to get the deal done? And if so, like, let's have an honest conversation about what we can come back with. Don't just tell them here's $250 and hope it resolves, because most of the time it's not. That's not to say like it won't, but I feel like on the inspection side, things have kind of come back into the middle where buyers have more power than they did a few months ago. Now, on that appraisal contingency waiver side, with people coming in 15 to 25 over asking, that's still like, if you're going in at 25 over and you're hoping the seller is going to take pity if you waive the appraisal contingency and appraisal comes back, 13 below the actual purchase price you put in, I'm not seeing much movement on that, which makes sense. I mean, people are still having some multiple offer situations. Your offer was selected on that higher price with the appraisal contingency. It was a material part of the deal. So yeah, seeing a little bit more play on the inspection side than I did a few months ago. And on the appraisal side, it's still like, if you're waiving that appraisal contingency, expect people to stick to it.
This
Do you
is-
see a lot of people for condos waiving the appraisal contingency? Because I didn't feel like I needed to do that in most multiple offer situations, but
It's not, the condos and the high rise is not so much, but some of the townhomes or more kind of like planned unit development situations, yeah, I'm still seeing it. And I still have a fair number of clients, and none of any of our people we're working with, but they seem to think they can play games with the appraisal contingency and hope they'll get a backdoor price reduction. And you know, they're upset when it doesn't work out. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's what you went under contract for, and you understood that. So you do your best to manage expectations, but on things like that, sometimes it can be difficult.
I've looked at numbers ahead of time with people too and been like, hey, you know, if this is what you want to offer, great. But just in case, just so you know, because that's their question is, well, how does that, you know, do I pay the difference? What does that look like? So I've done that a bunch too, just to let people know, like, if this is what you want, here's, you know, what it's going to look like. So at least they know going in.
Yeah, and Justin, are you seeing like with the just with the slowing down a little bit, are you still seeing, because I know a lot of buyers when in their multiple offer situation, they want to come back and try to nickel and dime, or they're asking for a ton of stuff from the inspection because they feel like they're overpaying. Are you still seeing that?
Yeah. I'm kind of seeing two sides of that spectrum though. I'm seeing more situations right now where buyers just want to move through the process because I think they have heard it's a hot market. So some buyers, I mean, I feel like a year ago, everyone would come back with some sort of an ask, no matter how small. Right now I'm seeing buyers are either nickel and diming everything, or they're coming in and just saying it's a lot of small stuff, let's move forward and be done with it. So it's kind of a unique position right now. But yes, I'm still seeing that.
During the offer process, it's setting those clients up, because a lot of sales too, as is, and explaining what that means. And I'm like, at the time, in the heat of the moment, you really want the house. And if it's an as is sale, you might not feel like you overpaid because it's everything you want, but you might feel like you over offered. And then, you know, the seller has the right to decline any inspection, repairs, and requests, even if it's something significant, because we are in a multiple offer situation where the next buyer could be more comfortable taking on a HVAC replacement or a water heater replacement. And that's just what, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. Has anybody seen in our market or tried in a multiple offer situation to try to do any amount of non-refundable earnest money?
I have not.
Not much on the residential side.
I had a listing agent suggest that to me on a property that had been sat on the market when my client made an offer, and we just politely declined because there was no reason to. It had gone under contract once and just kind of sat after that. And I said, there's no reason for us to do that. And I think just some of your clients just needing to be as comfortable and confident with the process and their decision, that in that situation, I don't know that it's necessary.
I know it is, it's, I don't want to say common, but happening in other markets, just having friends in other parts of the country where the market is just as hot, if not hotter, where they are. I had a friend who was, you know, $1 million plus, and they put down $50K of non-refundable earnest money from the start. So to win the bid. So they also don't have attorneys in Maryland. So they don't have anyone advising them. Maybe that's not the best idea. It still boggles my mind to not have an attorney. So we're very lucky. Thank you, Justin.
You're welcome. Although there's plenty of people that don't like that little wrinkle in our system here. So
it's funny when like friends call you from other areas asking for advice, and it's like, it's just a different ball game. I can't necessarily advise you. I can tell you what I would do if you were my client, but things are just done differently in different parts of the country.
Yeah. I'm like, what does your attorney say? I'm like, oh, we don't use one out here. I'm like, okay.
It just, yeah, so crazy to me.
Hey, I think it's a good like pause. If everybody can humor me and we can get a screenshot with everybody smiling. Before that, Jeff Zurikat, asked, and this, if everybody wants to mull this over, we kind of touched on it, but I just, if somebody types a question in the comments, I'll do my best to address it. Here's the question. Does anyone have an idea on whether an appraiser hired by a big bank versus a local lender are better for appraising out? I doubt there's any anecdotal data out there, but wanted to gauge if anyone has noticed a trend. So think on that for 12 seconds while I do the photo, and hold on real fast. And please do not be like my children and smile for 1 second and then stop. So here is the rule with the photo. All right. When you see me stop smiling, then you stop smiling. Okay. So are we ready for this? And we nail this on the first try. So no pressure, everybody. All right. Hold on. 2, 3. I think we nailed it. Hold on. Moment of truth right here.
I'm sure I blinked.
Right.
No, we're good. So like I say, if anybody wants to address that, either individually or collectively, chime in. Just curious to hear everybody's thoughts on it, but I know that was kind of a live one, so I wanted to frame it.
Like your comment earlier was kind of in that direction, right? That your issues are coming up with the smaller lenders and the credit unions rather than the big lenders.
Yeah, and rather than the local. So, Guaranteed Rate and Chase have been great, but the credit union from Kansas, where your family's from, I should have just made them switch, like Eli mentioned, right at the outset. But
I think as a bigger institution, you have more control over like the vetting process, so you can be more selective and making sure like you're getting the best of the best and choosing. And then somewhere small, like if it's in Bufu, Kansas, like you probably have a lot smaller pool to pick from, would be my thought.
The only other time I've had something that was a little bit different was it was Wells Fargo, and the appraiser came back low and they weren't able to order a secondary one, whereas a lender here in Chicago was able to. So there was a little bit less red tape. I don't know why or how that works exactly, but just something interesting kind of to think about. I think sometimes the really big banks just have so many cooks in the kitchen, whereas a more local person is a little bit more hands-on and can make those calls when need be.
Yeah, if you have the ability to throw it out, or like I'm a broker, so if one bank says no and the program doesn't work there, like great, I have 5 other places I can try. It's just a matter of like, what does our timeline look like? How does everyone feel about that? And just kind of resetting those expectations.
Yeah, does anybody else get a little paranoid where I always make sure that when an appraiser asks for a time, I try to make sure I get in the time they want. I show up like 10 minutes early on their schedule. I give them all the comps. I make sure I talk to them and get to know them a little bit. Is that just me?
No.
I'm sure it's very appreciated.
I've had an interesting experience twice now where clients have gone with a very well-known recognized bank, had the appraisal appraised out, and then local bank have given them a better rate or a better offer, and they've changed lenders in the middle of the process, and it's underappraised significantly, like anywhere between $10,000 and $52,000. So it's just interesting to see on the buy side, and then also on the sell side of the difference doing a second appraisal, and how they can change dramatically.
It's scary. It's scary that one person has such control over it, and that, we try and make it as objective as possible, but it really is subjective, and you're at the mercy of whoever it is that they send.
Exactly.
I think that just speaks to like, there's so much more to it than just rate. And I've been having that conversation a lot with people, is what's important to you? Is it program? Is it, your bottom line? Do you want extra money? Like or is it closing quickly? Like you kind of have to evaluate what's most important to you and then tailor your loan strategy accordingly. Because yes, it might be you want the lowest rate, but do you want the cost associated? Depending on the bank, is the mortgage insurance higher? That could drive up your payment more than, working with someone else where it might be a slightly higher rate. So there are just so many factors there. but that doesn't surprise me because that's rate chasing everyone. I think they're just, people don't understand all the other things that go into like the process and transaction. And like you guys have your preferred lenders, right? So you've worked with them, you know that it's a smooth process, and that takes so much stress off of everyone's plate when everyone's worked together and like we all want the same thing. We're working towards the same goal.
Yeah, I always tell my clients, like, I get nothing from you using who I like and work with other than the peace of mind that I'm
Better
confident
process.
we're gonna get to the closing table, and there's
Yep.
nothing that derails a process faster and harder than financing. And so that eighth of a point, I promise you, is not gonna be worth it if you don't actually get the home that you want. So.
Well, and I tell my buyers too, in the very first meeting I have with them, is that if we go into a multiple offer situation, the listing agent, if they're experienced, they like to hear that they're working with my team.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, Angie, sorry, I'll chime in. I usually try to shut up, but the operative word is try there. But I'm glad you brought that up, Angie, just because that is legit why we do these. It's just to help. Some people come off these being, yeah, I got a couple things from this. Some people, like, they add a lot of value. So, I mean, I just want everybody on here to know if you want to do another one of these in a month or two, because the market changes and shifts. You know, we obviously will shuffle the deck and get different realtors and partners on. Totally happy to put it together. I mean, you guys can lean on us as a resource. I mean, the goal of our platform is to connect like-minded people. I mean, it says in our masthead, it's on the hard copy, connecting, elevating, and inspiring. And it's sometimes as hard as it is to stay on brand and on mission statement. I mean, Angie, that is literally why we do these. So I'm glad that you sort of brought that up, just in regards to helping the machine stay well oiled, not just per company, but throughout the whole marketplace. That is really the goal of these. So thank you.
Important too if the lender's local, because it's 4:30 on a Friday and we have a loan question or a loan contingency, that person in New York is gone.
Yep.
So, we're dialing for dollars at that point.
I know. I think lenders who don't work realtor hours is the most absurd thing that I've ever heard, because people ask me, when do you work? And I'm like, I work when you need me to work, because I know like you probably have a 9 to 5, so we can't talk between 9 to 5. So we've got to do that like on your way to work. We've got to do evening and weekend and adjust. And that's what it is. Like you guys are the boots in the ground schlepping around to 50 showings. If I've got to take a 9 p.m. call for 20 minutes, like of course that's what we're gonna do.
Right. And hey, just a quick question to you, Seth. So how are you seeing things from your end with like the listing side and everything at this point for your business?
So it's strange. I was thinking there would be I guess it's like a negative correlation in terms of how many things are on the market and it would negatively affect our business. But we've been super busy in terms of stagings, as well as getting our furniture back like immediately, because things are selling so quickly. So we're just we're just trying to stay afloat with respect to stagings and also the furniture removal. But it's awesome because we're doing a ton of stagings, but we don't have to go buy any inventory because we're getting it back immediately. So it's really just kind of quick turnaround, which is great.
As the market slows, I would think that would only help you in that I'm telling my buyers, this is the time when you need to showcase your home in the best light possible, that things aren't necessarily flying as quickly, and we need to paint your cabinets and change your countertops and stage. So it's certainly, I'm sure, a balance for you guys as well.
Yeah, Diana, you were mentioning earlier about the market slowing, and I was just kind of quiet, like, yes.
Yeah.
We'll see how it shakes out, though.
I think that is the biggest misperception, though, is that I don't have to do the work because things are moving so quickly. And that has been probably my biggest challenge and why I've lost some listings, because I've, really recommended that people do that stuff. And they're like, oh, we'll get the price we want. We don't have to do anything. And especially with things starting to slow down a little bit, it's becoming even more important to to make sure it shows at the best possible level.
I took over a for sale by owner about a month ago, and they had tried for a month, and their photos were sad, and they just like needed some staging and they needed some help. And I had them spend like 10K, but we ended up going on the market, selling in 2 days, full price. And my seller is like so appreciative. She's like, we interviewed some people and they just said the market was so good that we could just, they were going to take photos and list. And she's like, well, I just felt like then if that's all they were going to do, that's all I was going to do. And she's like, I can now see that there is so much more involved, even in a hot market. So I felt validated a bit.
Yeah, and we had a couple, it was interesting. So I was sitting a couple larger open houses for someone in the office, and I sat an open house without them staged. And then I sat an open house with them staged, and because I had new photos and everything, night and day difference between the traffic. And then they also did go under contract very quickly after they were staged.
Yeah. I mean, your photos are your first showing for sure. And staging just goes a very long way for sure.
Yeah, we always like to say that, in a seller's market, you kind of help you get top dollar or more than you would have if you didn't stage, and then vice versa on a buyer's market. We just want to help you offload that property as quickly as possible.
I heard someone say staging is less expensive than your first price reduction, and I thought that was like the best quote.
I like that.
That's
So
a gold
true.
nugget. That is a gold nugget right there. I'm going to type that in the comments.
When you go in other than the furniture, do you advise on people changing paint colors and changing things up as well, other than just, furnishings?
We do something where it's just like an occupied consultation. So if they're living there, we'll go in, and it's mostly focused on kind of the furniture layout, but we also advise on paint recommendations and some things that they could do in terms of updating countertops. So yeah, we do that.
Okay.
Love that. Make you the bad guy, not us.
What paint do you all recommend? Mine's Sherwin-Williams 1464, but I know everybody has their own favorite.
What's the name of that one? Is it called 1460?
Light pewter.
Oh, I like agreeable gray.
Yeah.
I think mine was cottonwood. It's a very light, like, I feel like we're switching back to the tans. It's that like very light taupe.
I used light pewter in my old place and loved it, but I usually recommend gray owl because it's like just super light and bright.
I need to paint. I'm like making notes of all these right now.
Yeah, actually, Neil, to your point, I am in my own place, this new one, going more just like warm white rather than gray. So a little bit not beige, but just warmer colors rather than the cool.
Yeah, I have low ceilings in my place, so I did the bright white ceilings and then just very light colors to make it feel more open.
All the colors. Well, hey, we're like a minute or two out. Anybody have any final thoughts on? I love it. Let me make sure I got this quote. And Meg, you said you didn't know who has quoted it, so I just put you in the quote. That's a Meg Daday quote. So whatever. If you're ripping it off from someone, somebody might sue you. Sorry. So it's, yeah, that's right. Staging is less expensive than your first price reduction, right? Was that?
Yep.
Sorry,
Yeah, I don't have to contribute that too, unfortunately.
Sweet.
But
I put it in the chat. I love it. Well, no, I mean, I think that's a good stopping point, and we're about a minute out. So I'm going to cut the live feed. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. And okay, now we're off Facebook Live. But no, seriously, guys, we appreciate it. You know the drill. I will send an email out with it, everybody connected in case they want to, connect after. Also, too, I think it would be valuable is I will connect everybody individually with our preferred appraiser. I actually had a beer with him at Corridor Brewery. Not that matters or anything. It did matter though, because of the first home Cubs game, and I circled to find parking for like 30 minutes. That has nothing valuable with what I'm about to say right now. But the point is the guy is slammed. So if he doesn't get back to, as you can imagine, if he doesn't get back to you, great. But at least he's a good resource, and he's been doing his business for like 15, 20 years. So he knows what's up. But yeah, I appreciate it, everybody. I'll let you get back to making money. I will send, like I say, send a follow-up email with everybody's info. And if you want to hop on another one of these in a month or two, let me know. All right.
Okay, thanks, Andy.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Have a good day.